For those of you watching this, I've been asked over the last several years, Tyler, what's next? Tyler, what are you going to do as far as the next piece of legislation? And so one of the biggest things that I'm most excited about actually happens to be one of my good friends, former Representative Cynthia Lummis, former State Treasurer Cynthia Lummis, former State House Representative Cynthia Lummis. And now she's got her next big thing, and it's pretty exciting. She's got a 99.99999% chance she's going to be our next U.S. Senator here in the state of Wyoming. And anyways, I'm not going to steal any of her thunder. I want you guys to understand why I'm so excited about Cynthia being our next U.S. Senator out of the state of Wyoming, going off to D.C. to kick some tail. So with that, my good friend Cynthia, go ahead, lady.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler. I am so honored to be part of the 3rd annual Wyoming Blockchain Stampede. And I want to take a minute to recognize all the incredible speakers. And your program this year is amazing. In just a few short years, your event has grown exponentially and with a global reach that's bringing thought leaders and innovators from all over the world together. I especially want to thank the University of Wyoming event chairman Caitlin Long and the dozens of organizers who've worked tirelessly to make this event incredible. I thought I'd start by giving you all a little background on me and explain why a rancher and U.S. Senate candidate is joining you today. I'm a 4th-generation Wyoming native. With my brother and my sister, we run a cattle ranch in Laramie County, which is around Cheyenne. I'm a 3-time graduate of the University of Wyoming in animal science, biology, and law. I spent 8 years as Wyoming State Treasurer, and I think that's what has attracted me to what you're doing. I also spent 14 years in the Wyoming House and Senate. In 2008, I was elected to serve as Wyoming's lone congressman. I served there for 8 years. There, I helped found the Freedom Caucus. I was in the Liberty Caucus. I advocated for Western issues, especially energy and natural resources. And I was and remain a fierce budget hawk. And now I'm honored to be the Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate here in Wyoming. Now, it was during my time in Congress that I first learned about Bitcoin. I was struck by how innovative Bitcoin is with its decentralized public ledger and a fixed supply. And it presents savers and all of us committed to sound money with new opportunities. So due to Wyoming's vast mineral resources, Wyoming is a state with significant savings. Today, our state treasurer manages around $20 billion in savings spread across 9 investment pools. Now, when I was state treasurer, it was my job to invest Wyoming's permanent mineral trust fund, and I was always looking for a good store of value. I've long worried about the Federal Reserve's program of quantitative easing and the mountain of debt on which our nation's economy's future rests. Think about it. Since last March, the U.S. has created $3 trillion more in debt. Let that sink in for a minute. Knowing that there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoin makes it an attractive store of value. So this week, famed economist Nassim Taleb said, the greatest undervalued risk to the financial markets is that the US dollar is diminished as a global reserve currency. That's something we should all be worried about, especially going to the US Senate. If we don't right the US financial ship, Taleb's comments may prove correct, and sooner rather than later. So I want to address America's debt when I go to the U.S. Senate, but I also want to protect the value that America's workers generate through their labor. We cannot continue to debase our currency and expect that the American workers' wages and savings will be unaffected, or expect diligent American savers won't feel the rapid loss in purchasing power. And Bitcoin, to me, has shown great promise and may rise as a viable alternative store of value to the US dollar, both on the institutional level and the personal level. That potentiality is something we must at least acknowledge in our conversations about the economic future of our country. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2013. because I believe in the economic power of scarcity and the potential for Bitcoin to address some of the manipulation in our financial system that came to a head during the 2008 recession. Now I'm a hodler, and I hodl because, like gold, I want to preserve the relative value of my labor over time. As my own interest grew, we had an amazing sea change that happened here in Wyoming that has enabled our state to be at the forefront of innovation. Now, thanks to the vision and hard work of people like Representative Tyler Lindholm, who's on this call today, Caitlin Long, your leader of this conference, Senator Ogden Driscoll, Senator Chris Rothfuss, Matt Kaufman, who's a great Cheyenne lawyer, and many others. In less than 3 years, Wyoming passed a series of laws to create a comprehensive, friendly legal framework where blockchain technology could develop and thrive. Wyoming's hope was to attract entrepreneurs, investors, innovators, companies, and capital to our state. And it's working at no cost to the state, to the Wyoming taxpayer. Earlier this month, Kraken became the first crypto exchange to charter a bank right here in Wyoming. Companies like IOHK and Avanti are taking root. The University of Wyoming launched the Blockchain Center of Excellence. Think about that, the University of Wyoming. The Wyoming legislature now has the Select Committee on Blockchain, Financial Technology, and Digital Innovation Technology. Some people think we still ride horses to school, and these are the kind of things we're doing. So this event, the Wyoming Blockchain Stampede, has exploded in 3 short years, and we're just getting started. At the same time, for Wyoming to continue to lead, we need a partner at the federal level who can fight to keep regulatory authority where it belongs, in state hands. I've worked my whole life for states' rights, and I believe wholeheartedly that's where most decision-making belongs. The states are the incubators of innovation as a governmental entity. That being said, there's still a number of issues at the federal level that impact Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. One of the biggest issues right now is know your customer and anti-money laundering standards. These standards were put into place before the dawn of the internet, and they are stifling innovation in 2020. They're also choking our community banks with sky-high costs. This is a reason that community banks are disappearing, and that's a huge concern for Wyoming because community banks are the lifeblood of lending in Wyoming. So these laws fail to meet their intended purpose of protecting customers, stopping money launderers from using our financial system, or stopping terrorists from accessing funds. The big leak from BuzzFeed last weekend showed these laws are simply failing to achieve their goals in practice. This has to be addressed for both fintech and regular banks through the Banking Secrecy Act. Another issue I believe is critical is ensuring industry has a seat at the table as the federal government develops policy and programs around cryptocurrency. Recently, the Federal Reserve announced that they're entering into a pilot program with MIT to develop a so-called hypothetical digital currency. But it's my understanding that no one at MIT has ever developed any cryptocurrency. So this is pretty typical of federal agencies failing to consult the industry experts. The US dollar is a fiat currency. It is the currency we must strengthen to compete with cryptocurrencies in an open market. Lastly, I would just mention the importance of amending existing security laws. A bipartisan bill recently introduced in the US House of Representatives would classify digital tokens as commodities and not securities. It's critical that federal law define the difference between currencies like Bitcoin and different types of digital assets, just as Wyoming has done. Well, I still have a month to go on the campaign trail, but should I be elected to serve as Wyoming's next US Senator, I plan to continue to be an advocate for the private sector innovation and advancement that's on the horizon. Over the last 6 months, we've seen our world change in many ways and at a pace that we never thought possible. state and federal lawmakers have the responsibility to create a level playing field and then get out of the way for private enterprise to thrive. Hey, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to join you all this morning. I really look forward to seeing where this thoughtful audience of innovators takes us next, and that is you. We are so grateful for your involvement in this effort. Tyler, thank you. I'm going to send it back to you with my appreciation for everything you've done.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and call you Senator-elect from here on out, because I don't know if anybody, like the people that are listening, we've got somebody that's going to the U.S. Senate that understands KYC, AML, the Banking Secrecy Act, all of those aspects, that bought her first Bitcoin in 2013. This is exciting. This is a really big deal for this industry. It's a big deal for the state of Wyoming. And I can't thank you enough for your time. And I also wanted to mention, we got a little bit of time left. I wanted to mention, and I don't think you mentioned it, but I think it's worth mentioning. So you bought your first Bitcoin in 2013, but I believe you also went to the Satoshi Roundtable, and I think you're the first congressman to ever attend. Is that right?
It was my privilege. I got to speak at the Satoshi conference in 2017. It was down in Mexico, and it was my first speaking engagement just after leaving Congress. And so it gave me an opportunity to sit in the room. Yeah, we're on a beach in Mexico. I never went to the beach because I was sitting in the room with the folks that keep your fabulous logarithms and all of the behind the scenes stuff that I don't understand, and listening to them have a discussion with the miners and the investors that make Bitcoin what it is today. And it was so fascinating. I never went to the beach. I came home white as a sheet. And it was an amazing experience, and it was part of what the whistle of my enthusiasm for what you all are doing now.
Awesome. Well, I once again, Senator-elect Lummis, really appreciate your time and all of your efforts and all of your work that you've done for Wyoming over your entire life. And we can never thank you enough. And I'm pumped about the next chapter and what you can do for the state of Wyoming. And with that, we're going to turn it over to the next panel.